Hey crew, I've got the key to this Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. We are going to take it for a drive, but first let's check out how it looks on the inside and outside. Ford wanted the GT to look sportier than the standard Mach-E, so you get a black grille insert with a layered design, projector LED headlights and daytime running lights as standard, functional airflow on the side, and a jutting front splitter in black gloss. You still have those active grille shutters like the standard Mach-E. This one is painted in cyber orange metallic, and though I didn't love the color at first, it's growing on me. Looks like a mustard yellow in the sun. The wheels are 20 inches as standard and have a very radial phone design. Like I want to stick my finger in there and go shunk, shunk and dial someone up. The GT Performance gets better 20-inch wheel designs, and they're wrapped in Pirelli P0 tires, whereas these are wrapped in Continental Cross Contact 245 section front and rear. You get upgraded brakes on the GT compared to the Mach-E, and they're Brembo 6 pistons for the front on the GT Performance. Red painted calipers for both. Charged 4 doors here. Blacked out mirror caps and window trim and side sill. The roof is also painted in black, and it's a very clever detail because when you step back to look at the profile, your eye is drawn to the pillar in yellow, not the roof line. So it disguises all of the additional headroom you have back there. You feel like you're looking at a coupier design. The GT sits lower than the standard Mach-E as well. Getting to the back, you have the sort of chopped off rear end look, which I like. Subtle roof mounted spoiler. LED taillights with sequential turn signals, a GT badge right in the center, and a GT specific diffuser. It's really a very good looking small SUV. I wish it wasn't called a Mustang. It just stands alone as a nice design. Let's look at that interior. Opening up via button and looking inside, we find a set of standard leatherette and suede inserted seats with bronze accents for the piping and stitching. More leatherette and suede on the doors. You get ambient lighting you can't see right now as standard on the GT. These cool speaker covers for the Bang & Olufsen 10 speaker sound system that's standard on the GT. Hard plastics down low but a big door pocket. Stepping inside. Sitting behind my own seating position at 6 feet tall, I've got ample knee room, good foot pockets. The batteries in the floor lift up that floor a bit to pinch up the knees a touch, but my head does clear the roof. You have air vents in the center, 2 USB-C ports, 1A, 1C, and better still, you can slide into the center and I can still clear the roof. If you don't have someone sitting in the middle, there's an armrest that pops down with 2 cup holders, nicely padded, and there's an optional glass panoramic roof that looks incredible. Back seats are nice. It's a reasonably sturdy sounding door close. More buttons for the front doors, but now we have these fins you can pull. The GT front seats are more heavily bolstered than the standard Mach-E's. They're also heated and power adjustable as standard. GT tread plates here. Pull that lever twice to reveal a 5 cubic foot front trunk with a drain plug. 3-position memory for the front seats. More leatherette, suede, and bronze accents. Trigger style door pulls, 4 one-touch up-down windows, and power folding door mirrors. More large door pockets, more hard plastics down low. No button to press to release the rear trunk, so you reach in and press this on the infotainment, or you pull the trigger on the tailgate itself. There is an integrated cargo cover, 30 cubic feet of space behind the 60-40 split folding chairs. To release those, press on the tabs and push forward. There's a 2-position load floor with storage for your charging cables underneath, a DC outlet, a button to close the trunk, no button to close and lock though. Sliding inside, we find a standard leather-wrapped heated steering wheel with bronze stitched accents, a slender digital instrument cluster with all the info you need. The Ford Copilot 2.0 system gives you this attention monitor for your adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. Turn signals and wipers are where you expect them. Mustang design inspiration in the double cowl on the dashboard with integrated speaker covers. There's a textured panel beneath that, and then your 15.5-inch touchscreen infotainment with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that take over a large part of the screen. The infotainment itself is also very easy to navigate, easy to find what you're looking for, and it's pretty darn responsive. HVAC controls remain down here at all times. You have a physical volume knob, wireless charging pad, 2 USB ports, 1A, 1C, some storage underneath, 2 cup holders, nice details around your dial gear selector. E-brake is here, imprinted GT on your armrest. You lift up and slide this back for deep console storage and a DC outlet. Visibility is okay up until you get to those C/D pillars with the windows that are useless. You'll rely on standard blind spot monitoring. It's otherwise a very well-designed, well-equipped cabin. I'm ready for a drive. All right, let's fire it up. Just an expression in this case. Nothing to fire up, it's an EV. We're not seeing here the full graphical demonstration that you get when you first hop in the car, but I'll show you B-roll because it's pretty freaking neat. It takes over both the digital instrument cluster and the giant tablet infotainment. I want to start with a look at the range estimate because right now it says we have 98% charge and 219 miles of range. And you might be like, wow, only 2% battery used, but that's 51 miles off the EPA estimated 270 mile range. And indeed, I've only ever seen 240 miles at a full 100% charge. So either that estimate is off or kind of misquoted from the EPA. We'll have to see. And we'll check back in with that when we're done with the drive to see how much charge and range we've used. We're going to start in the Whisper drive mode, the most subdued and efficient drive mode available to you. And we'll have the one pedal drive on. The propulsion sound, we'll start with that off. And then to go into reverse, we turn the dial over to the right. And that brings up a bird's eye view of the car along with a reasonably high resolution backup camera. It looks somewhat grainier at night. You can see that in my night drive if you want to. You can also look at your parking sensors or a wider angle view of the backup camera. Scoot on out of here. And we will begin as usual with a turning radius test. Cranked. And I'm going to clear it, but that's not fantastic. I mean, certainly relative to the competing Volkswagen ID.4 that had a just remarkably good turning radius. That was just okay. And the horn test? Oh, bumpy suspension. Talk more about that in a sec. Here we go. It's loud enough. It kind of sounds like the car startled itself. To speak for a second about the one pedal drive, at low speeds, it definitely works pretty well as a one pedal drive. There's a good amount of regen, but as the speeds build, say you get towards 50 miles per hour, you're definitely going to have to use the brake unless you really measure it out just right, because it doesn't drag the vehicle down with quite the same tenacity as at low speeds. But again, low speeds works just fine. Without the propulsion sound turned on, it's rather quiet. The only noise you'll hear a bit is those electric motors will tune in to some degree the more throttle response you give it. And even in Whisper drive mode, the response is excellent. But the suspension, that isn't the best. Here we go. Over a section of not terribly aggressive bumps in the road, we're still going over it, it's fairly firm. Not harsh per se, but you do get jostled around quite a bit in the driver's seat. And that's with the firmer suspension in the GT compared to the standard Mach-E. Now the Mach-E GT Performance, that $5,000 package, does give you the MagneRide adaptive dampers. And I wonder if, even just for those alone, not even talking about the additional performance that I do need to mention, it might be worth it. And this would seem like a good time to talk about the powertrain. So the Mach-E GT has a dual motor setup paired with a 91 kilowatt battery pack that in the standard GT makes 480 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. If you get the performance pack, that raises the torque output to 634 pound-feet. We are going to see how quickly this vehicle gets to 60 miles per hour here. So I'm going to go into unbridled, and then it's a simple mashing of the throttle. There's no launch control system. I do have my race box set up to see how quickly we can make this dash, and this does include 1 foot of rolled out. So here we go. There it is. 3.92 seconds, says the race box. I say, wow, it feels quick. Very, very quick. Now, 3.92 is about a tenth of a second slower than Ford's estimate of 3.8 seconds, and that's going to be 0.3 of a second, 3.92, off of the GT Performance's quote of 3.6. We're going to do it one more time. .92 again. Exactly. Wow, that is consistent. And the G-force is really strong as you do that. Now, in Unbridled, we heard some of the sound, but that's still the electric motors. You have to turn on the propulsion sound to hear more. And that's much more entertaining. That soundtrack brings you into the experience of the thrust. Just makes it more exciting. It's a good nondescript noise. In terms of the power delivery, definitely the 0 to 60 mile per hour time is going to feel like the most amount of thrust from this dual motor setup. But then at the higher speeds, from like the 50 to 70 jump is really quick, and then the 70 beyond, you start to see, well, even here on the meter, the gray bars that come in, hard to see while we're in motion, but the gray bars that come in start to show you the cutting of the power. Now, the reason I didn't go into the unbridled extend option is, one, there's sort of these requirements that the vehicle puts on you for temperature control of the motors, that it will only unlock that under certain conditions. But also, even if it wasn't unlocked, I wouldn't want to hit it, because unbridled extend actually initially cuts power, because it's really meant for like track duty, where it's going to give you consistent performance, having the liquid cooling do their job to keep the electric motors from overheating, but it keeps the performance within a certain check. So it never gives you the full amount of performance available to you. But even with that not selected, the regular unbridled, I do notice that after the initial thrust, it does make a noticeable cut to the performance, to the power. And that's somewhat unfortunate, because we're sitting here at 93% charge. It shouldn't really be needing to cut power. I'm going to turn off the one pedal drive now, because I want to do a proper test of the braking performance, and I don't want the regen to be helping us out. No one behind from 56. That is a good stout pedal feel. Those upgraded brakes compared to the Mach-E really come into play there. I loved that braking performance. Very confident pedal, great initial bite. This is not a lightweight vehicle. Whether that would hold up on a track or on a canyon road, or consistently having to use up the braking to apply full braking, I'm not quite sure. But I can't extrapolate. For right now, those brakes felt awesome. I have to see how the vehicle handles though. So I'm going to turn off traction control. Just a quick single button press. And then we will attack this corner up here. Brush of the brakes, chuck it in. Ha ha ha! It scoots the rear end around nicely. That's the GT part of the equation there, being much more enjoyable to drive than the standard Mach-E. Now, one thing I wasn't feeling a ton of was good steering communication. The turn-in was pretty sharp, tucked in nicely, but I just didn't get a great sense through the wheel of how the tires were holding up. The tires themselves seem to have held up pretty well, though, despite not being the Pirelli P0s. I'm going to take us out of Unbridled, we're going to go into Whisper, and then I want to demonstrate the Ford Blue Cruise system. So you just hit the cruise control button. If Blue Cruise is available, which it is, it now becomes a hands-free driving experience. This only is going to work on pre-mapped highways, and it works with adaptive cruise control. That's interesting because so it cut out there. It worked, but then it cut out and said you have to keep your hands on the wheel. So it's only when it says hands-free there on the screen that it's truly a hands-free system. And if you want to hear the sound system test for this Bang & Olufsen unit, which is incredible, the bass hits really hard, you'll want to watch that night drive where I give you a demonstration of that. I can demo for you the windshield wipers. I know that's exactly what you want to see. Here we go. Ooh. Oh, these are good. No residual streaks of water? Yes, thank you very much. And just for demonstration purposes, I am going to go into Engage drive mode. There we go. Which you can kind of equate to sport, right? If Whisper is comfort, Unbridled is Sport Plus, Engage would be sport. And you do get peppier throttle response, still pretty easy to modulate, and some more resistance through the steering rack. Of course, the fixed damper settings are unchanged. I like Engage. And now let's talk about the competition for this Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, which starts at $63,000. This one is tested with the Cyber Orange paint job and the Blue Cruise, and this panoramic glass roof is $64,800. The Tesla Model Y Performance would be a direct rival. That one starts at $62,000. Now, important to note, the Mach-E GT is eligible for that full $7,500 federal tax credit, whereas Tesla has fully exhausted that credit, so you won't get that. The Tesla Model Y Performance does have a longer range at 303 miles from the EPA quote, and the 0 to 60 is quicker than the standard GT version of the Mach-E at 3.6 seconds. Then we have the Kia EV6 GT line all-wheel drive. Now, we still don't yet have the EV6 GT, the full GT that's going to make like 570 something horsepower, and it's going to be quicker to 60. It's going to cost more, but we have the GT line all-wheel drive for right now. That one's $57,000 to start. It makes 320 horsepower, gets to 60 in a relatively slow, compared to these vehicles, this and the Model Y Performance, at 4.5 seconds. And the range for that one is slightly better than the Mach-E GT at 274 miles, but still well off the pace of the Tesla Model Y Performance. I can tell you what the Mach-E GT does very, very well. I think it looks awesome on the exterior. I wish it wasn't called a Mustang. I think the interior is also incredible, way more to look at, way more to engage with than the Model Y Performance. I have not been inside the EV6 or driven that one yet, but it does those things very, very well. The ride quality is pretty firm here. The performance is great. It's pretty fun to drive. Steering feel, I need more out of it. The range, well, let's check in now. Let's see, we've got 86% and 102 miles quoted after the driving we just did in this video. And that pretty much measures up compared to the 219 miles and 98% charge that we had to start. So that's consistent as we've used the battery. And I would say based on how we've dug into the performance a bit compared with the casual driving we've done, using up, I can't do math, 27 miles of range in that time, seems about right. Still, not getting close to that EP estimated 270 miles at 100% charge is a bit of a bummer. So this may not be the range king, but it looks great outside and in, and it's fun to drive. I hope you guys have enjoyed this POV drive review. If you did, please like, comment, and share the video. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to get notified, and I'll see you next time.